Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Stranda Tree Surfer. This board features Stranda's low camber with tip and tail rocker, which is basically mellow cam rocker. So you have more rocker in the nose, a mellow traditional camber underfoot, and then rocker in the tail. That camber underfoot is going to give you all the load, pop, snap, and drive for this board, while that rocker in the tip and the tail is going to give you ease of entry in and out of turns, as well as more optimal powder float. This board's available in 157 and 162. I rode this board at Copper Mountain on a day that was overcast skies, snow falling. We had about 6 inches that had fallen overnight on top of the 7 inches that had fallen the previous day. So you had light, fluffy pow, little bit of chop and chunder from the powder panic midday, and you had powder groomers, and I rode it with my Rome Black Label bindings and my K2 Thraxis boots. Here's the thing about this board. It kind of rides like two different boards depending on conditions and what terrain you're actually on. Now the overall flex of this board is directional middle of the road, so you're going to have a little bit more play in the nose, and it progressively stiffens back up to the tail with 2 key flex points. 1 slightly in front of the rear insert pack, and then 2 being right outside the rear insert pack. Now to go into the duality of the flex pattern on this thing, when you're in POW, it feels a little bit softer, a little bit more loose and floaty, but when you get on a groomer, it feels a little more stiff and a little more stable with it. It's one of those boards that it's kind of a chameleon depending on the conditions that you're actually in. So when you're in POW, it's more surfy, but when you're on a groomer, it's more precision based. And this kind of carries over to the stability of this board. This board's really good at dampening. Like chatter, not really a problem. Any flap you get in the nose is pretty much killed off before it hits the front insert pack. You're not worried about it. And with those flex points in the rear, when you're sitting on the tail in deep POW, if you hit like an ice boulder or something, while you will feel that body jarring hit, it doesn't buck you and it actually absorbs it. It's really a unique ride in that sense. And I do like that because this is one of those boards where you can just charge and not worry about what's underneath if it's going to buck you or cause you foot fatigue throughout the day. Ollies and pop. This board has snap. So when you load up that camber section and you roll back onto the rear foot, you're gonna feel it engage those 2 flex points. And as you hit that outer flex point and get your weight there, that's when it's gonna snap and it's gonna boost you. This is great when you get into deep POW. It's gonna allow you to porpoise and keep the nose of that board up and keep pumping it. But if you hit a side hit, rock drop, or a pillow popper, you're gonna be able to get this up in the air and not have to worry about it. And even if you're on a groomer and just a family of stupid fat skiers falls in front of you, you're gonna be able to clear them. Now you might want to go sideways and cut little Timmy's head off with the nose, but I leave that up to you. This board will get you in the air. All right, why don't you click like, because you know, you're digging this review so far. And while you're there, why don't you click subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we've got coming out for you. You know you don't want to miss them. So the cool thing with this board is those 2 flex points on the rear foot. And when you engage those at speed, you're doing massive high speed wheelies. This board was an absolute pleasure to do them on. Probably one of the best boards I've ever done high speed wheelies on a swallowtail with. The nose, on the other hand, it's more like a spatula. You don't really get like a good deep press per se. When you go to pop into it, you kind of just soggily push through it, and then if you get your weight way out, it will engage, and you can do one of those deep butters where you slap your hand into the snow as you're coming around, grab a handful of it, and then you throw it in the skier that's trying to cut you off's face. That way he's blind, and then you can get all the POW. At least that's what I do, because everyone's out to get me. But overall, like, it's there, it does its thing. It's not mind-blowing. The wheelies, on the other hand, though, whew, fun. Honestly, this is the one aspect of the board that kind of let me down. So the weird thing is your contact point is pushed back in the nose past the widest point. So it's just weird how it actually engages, and you notice it. It's kind of hooky when you start the carve, but the rear foot, especially with that inside flex point, takes over, and it's too easy to drive your knee into this board and get it to engage and cause the board to wash out on a deep toe side or heel side carve. It's one of those boards that you want to be a little more subtle and nuanced with and laid back. Short, tight, quick carves, it's pretty much driven from the rear foot. The front kind of guides it. Medium, mellow carves are its strong suit. It's the deep, hard, aggressive ones on a groomer where you're trying to lay a trench. You've got to understand that you're pretty much not engaging this section of the nose to guide it, and even when you get it to lock in, all the power is coming from just inside the rear foot back through the tail. So you're gonna end up losing a lot of the effective edge on this to get it to really rail over. And as I said, you can just get it to wash out, which is not fun at all. Like, I want a board that's gonna lock in. In POW, this thing is just amazing and it turns well and you can slash with it. Groomers, it leaves more to be desired. Rider in mind. So who is this for? The POW smashing, tree surfing, occasionally carving, and I mean occasionally, rider. Do you like what we're doing over here? Do you want to support us further? Swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. This board is exceptional in POW. It floats well. You feel it float. You can just swoop a turn and leave a big spray. It's great in the trees. It absolutely is amazing for its size, its width, and everything. It's nimble, and like the name suggests, it tree surfs. It is great. It's a damp ride. When you get it on a groomer though, it's not fun. Like, I've ridden better POW boards with swallowtails that could actually carve. This thing was just kind of a letdown there. And that's not a dig against this board. Like, if I was riding POW, this thing would be absolutely amazing and I'd love every minute of it. But Colorado, when I'm cutting through choppy, crusty groomers from the powder panic, it wasn't good. And that was just the only letdown with it. Like, if you're looking at full-blown, like, I want to ride POW, amazing. Groomers, more to be desired. Comparable boards. The Bataleon Surfer, the Telos Deros, the Endeavor Archetype. Binding recommendations: the Union Stranda, the K2 Bond, the Now Select. This has been my review of the Stranda Tree Surfer. If this isn't your cup of tea, why don't you go check out one of the reviews for one of the comparable boards?